Hey, I'm fishing today with Jim Carroll. Jim and I fish walleye tournaments, and we just got off a tournament that was a particularly tough bite. And Jim was saying to me, hey, why don't you come out to the Devil's Lake area? They're literally catching hundreds of fish a day. And I'm like, really? And he says, well, there's a lot of pike mixed in, but we'll catch some walleyes too. So I came out. Jim said we could just fish in his boat. We're staying down at the Woodland Resort, and we're fishing some lakes that are kind of unique because they're lakes that have filled up because Devil's Lake is rising so high. So we're going to be fishing some shallow shorelines. We're going to be using some swim baits, some crankbaits, and we're going to show you how to get the next bite.
I'm just looking for the next bite, next bite, next bite. I'm just looking for the next bite. It's the
Because Devil's Lake is a closed basin lake, its rising water levels for the last several years have expanded so much that not only has it claimed countless farms, highways, and houses, but it actually has come to form new sections of lake, or technically new lakes themselves. This aggressive expansion also makes Devil's Lake one of the most structure-centric bodies of water in the northern part of the United States for fishing walleye and northern pike.
Oh, look what I caught, Jim. We got walleyes in the corn.
A corn stalk.
But this is exactly why the fish are in here. All this vegetation is rotting and just creates a lot of food for the freshwater shrimp or whatever else is around. So walleyes in the corn.
Not too many years ago, they were farming this ground. So this has been a really neat experience because this is a lake that I've actually never been on, even though I fished Devil's Lake many, many times. And so there's no contour maps, so you just got to kind of go and figure things out. And we're in the early June time period here, so what I like to look for is areas of a little bit deeper water next to shore. So wherever you see a cut bank, I like this little bit steeper breaking stuff with the larger wood on it. That seems to hold fish this time of year.
Using a combination of long rods, flicker shads,
He likes flicker shad.
and Berkeley swim baits,
Didn't take long with that new 5-inch ripple shad, don't it?
Keith and Jim are preparing to battle through high numbers of walleye and northern pike.
Oh!
I can tell a guy might get wore out doing this.
In search of areas that hopefully hold the bigger fish the Devil's Lake is known for producing.
So it was kind of interesting listening to Jason Mitchell this morning. He actually guides out of Woodland Resort where we're staying there, and he was saying about how this lake that we're fishing this time, it was actually a barley field not a couple years, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, Devil's Lake is a closed basin, so as the waters come up, that water is backed up through the ridges and ditches and coulees and ran back into these basin areas and filled them up. We've got enough water in here now where it'll hold fish. Those fish will come in the spring, they'll get up in here, and they're gonna live in here all summer long.
They live in here, they grow in here, and thankfully we're in here and gonna catch them.
Yeah, like that one.
The yummer.
I love fishing here. What do we got here?
I got him. I got a walleye.
I just got a pike.
Well, you pitched at that one and saw it. I just thought I'd throw back there with the old crankbait. There's a walleye.
You dog! He came in and...
Look how chunky he is. All right,
Yeah.
here it comes, Jim.
Boy, look at that one.
Well, you saw that one come after you.
Yeah, he chased my swim bait and then he went behind a boat and...
One little flick of the flicker shad. Thanks for finding that. That's called fish finding, huh? Yeah. A little flick of the old flicker shad. And boom. Totally different bite than the pike. I got that back hook of that thing. There you go.
Nice.
There you go. Little marsh walleye, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's living where there was a marsh not 3, 4, 5 years ago. So look at how chunky.
They are
They're in
fat.
here eating, aren't
Yes,
they?
they are.
They're in here eating. All right, here you go. And remember to tell all your friends how much fun you had here on the next bite. There you go.
The Next Bite is presented by Mercury, Amsoil, the first in synthetics, Tracker Boats, fish the finest, Bass Pro Shops, your adventure starts here, Berkeley, catch more fish. The massive amount of newly decomposing vegetation is like a supercharger for fish activity under the hood of these new North Dakota offshoot lakes from Devil's Lake for walleye and northern pike.
I suppose there's a little bit of competition for food in here.
But a high volume of bites.
Yeah, we've been fishing all of about an hour. I think we got like 35 fish already. I'm sweating.
Isn't the only proof that this time of year, activity is full bore along the cutback shorelines, featuring a good amount of heavier woodline.
Wow, one after another.
Walleye.
Walleye. Oh, Pike chasing it. Wow.
Look at him.
Oh, he got him. Look at the Pike. Look at him. He's got him.
And he ain't letting go either. He's like, my walleye. There's my walleye. Let go. Look at him. I don't have a hook in him.
With such an aggressive bite just off the edges of the woodline,
Fish.
cranks are probably key.
Get the net.
But that doesn't mean that they're the only lure that can produce.
That on the old pink shine. That's a good bait here.
Yeah.
It produces walleye.
Especially if you're looking to break down water more quickly.
Well, as hot as it's outside, it's still fairly cool water. I mean, it's only 60.
Yeah, they're fighting good.
To locate bigger walleye and pike.
I hate the bait. 5-inch ripple shad.
Fish, Keith. Hey, it's a walleye. It's a walleye, Keith.
All right.
It's a walleye. Come on, Keith. Hey, there we go. Swim bait fish.
Yeah. I mean, how were you working it? How did he hit?
Well, I was doing that herky-jerky the retrieve, and I just paused and pow.
Ah, cool. Well, get him back in the water. Warm day out here. You don't want to keep him out too long.
What I like to do when we're pitching these shorelines in the spring is what I call the Devil's Lake 1-2 punch. And what I'll do is I'll throw a swim bait up front like this 4-inch action tail here, and I'll have the guy in the back throwing a crankbait. Now on this swim bait, you just want to pitch it out and kind of work it back. You don't really jig along the bottom, just reel and maybe a little stutter stop every once in a while, but you basically just swim it right back to the boat. And the guy in the back will be throwing a crankbait. And a lot of times the fish will definitely show a preference for one or the other. So I want to start out with that 1-2 punch and kind of let the fish tell us what's going to work for that day. Now we've had very warm, stable weather, and frankly I expect the crankbait to be a lot better today. But again, we want to let the fish tell us what's the best bait for the day.
Who's going? Stop the boat,
What do you
Jim.
got? You got fish?
Stop it. Well, you were motoring us up to take another drift there. I just kind of popping my lure behind the boat. And all I saw was these big yappers come out.
That's a big gator.
Yeah, I'll get him right to you here. He's only barely hooked, isn't he?
No, I know he's got just one bar. Come on, open up.
Now he doesn't want to open his big old mouth.
There we go.
Bring him here.
Nice one.
I got him.
All right.
Yeah, you were just motoring this up there. I thought, throw it out here, make sure my bait's still in tune and stuff. I guess it is. That's kind of the fun thing here. You're not really fishing with tackle for pike, because we got to stay a little bit finessey for the walleyes.
Sure.
Can't go real heavy line and stuff, but we're certainly getting big enough fish for the size of tackle we're using right there. It's a nice one.
Nice pike.
Bonus, huh?
Oh, yeah.
We'll call it a bonus.
Bonus fish.
Real Deal. Real fishing information from real fishing experts. Presented by Amsoil.
If you troll at all, one of the most important things is knowing how deep your baits are going. So for years, most of us used a book called Precision Trolling, which had like 200 crankbaits in it. You could actually go to a chart, look up how deep the bait was going based on how much line you were letting out. Well, that book is no longer being published, but the cool thing is now you can get it on an app. And there'll be iPhone apps, there'll be Android apps. And the nice thing is that I think it's actually easier to use. First of all, the app is going to allow you to buy different varieties of lures. You can buy single lures, you can buy packages of lures. You can even become a lifetime member and get every lure that they ever test as it comes out. But if you look at the app itself, you can go to the store, you can buy the different lures. But the more interesting thing here is if you hit this troll button, you'll see a list of all the lures that you've got purchased so far. So I'm going to go under the Berkeley subcategory, and here you can see we've got listed all the flicker shad. So let's go under number 7 flicker shad here. So say I'm seeing some fish on the screen 10 feet down, I want to run the bait 9 feet down. I simply roll up to 9 feet and it will tell me let out 55 feet of 10-pound XT. You can also go the opposite way. Say you've got a lure running out there and you're running out there 100 feet, wondering to yourself, how deep does that bait actually go? Simply roll it to 100 feet and it's going to tell you that bait is diving down 12 feet. So it shows you both ways. You can put in a depth, it'll give you a line out. You can put a amount of line out and it'll give you a depth. You can also switch between 2 different types of line. The 2 most common lines we use for walleye trolling, 10-pound XT, or you can roll up the fire line, and then obviously your bait will go a little bit deeper. But the cool thing is, this app is right with you all the time. You can roll and check all this data real quickly. All going to help you catch more walleyes because it's going to put those baits in the right zone.
Only a few spots have had near clear water up until this point.
Fish.
But with the wind starting to pick up more now, what were even middle-of-the-road visibility waters on the now wind-blown shorelines.
I'm going to bring him up nice and easy to you. Oh, there he is, man. There he is.
Oh, nice one.
Nice.
Woo!
Yeah, all right.
Probably are clouding up more, which could explain the increasing solid lockup Keith and Jim have over these North Dakota walleye and pike.
You know, that's the thing about here is that you catch a lot of fish, and every once in a while you get one of these bad boys.
Using a new color of flicker shad, Pink Shine.
Chunky
He's
little
living
thing,
shallow.
huh?
He's got that green back.
I like that they're living shallow because that crankbait can get to him then. Tell you what, when you come up to Devil's Lake, and especially if you get to fish in some of these newer bodies of water that have flooded in, you're going to find that there's just a ton of fish. And so what we've been doing to find these fish is once we kind of pick a shoreline that we think looks good, we actually just turn our trolling motor up on high and start covering a lot of water. I'm going to throw this guy back here and look for activity. And what I really like to see is if there's big fish in the area, and it can be big pike and hopefully big walleyes. They tend to stack together. And then what we typically use is crankbaits. And when we're throwing those crankbaits, we're just fan casting. Now the nice thing is in this June time frame, it doesn't seem like the fish are really tucked up tight into the timber. So what you can do is actually cast out at the edges and then bring it back. When you're bringing that crankbait back though, what you want to do is be feeling for a bite. Some of them will just hammer it, but a lot of times fish will swipe at it or peck at it, and you'll feel that, especially if you're using the no stretch lines. And if you feel that and they don't bite, what you can do is a lot of times slow down your retrieve. You can stop and twitch a little, just change things up a little, and a lot of times that'll get those fish to trigger. And it's not just the northern pike, even the walleyes. So cover some water, look for activity, and then once you are casting there, try and change things up to get those fish to bite.
Gusting winds on Devil's Lake can be a great opportunity to move.
You ready?
New spot.
Maybe to even one of your best spots sought out earlier, provided it is located along a windy shoreline in order to seek out actively feeding walleyes.
All right, Jim, come on. I'm gonna just try and hold this against this wind. He's a nice fish. I saw one flash of him.
Hopefully increasing your chances of catching some bigger ones.
Where's he at?
I like the better when it was a little calmer.
Yeah! Woo!
That's a good one. I'm gonna hold us off the shore here if you can get him on hook. This wind came up a little and we went over to a windy side of the bank. All day we've had activity on the kind of the cups, right?
Yeah.
Not the points, but down the bank a little bit where the wind is blowing in. And we felt that wind come up. We were over on the calm side of the lake. Quick ran over here and set up just before the cup, got right in it, and Pink Shine strikes. It's a nice fish. Why don't you see if I unhook him there, Jim? I'll kind of hold on to him, and I'm going to keep us kind of away from the bank players here. It's always a good idea when you're anywhere in the Dakotas, but even on Devil's Lake here in the shallow water fish, when they come up and start, when the wind starts blowing, I don't know if it starts knocking them shrimp off the trees or what, or just gets things going, and a lot of times it causes the great activity like that. So, well, let's let her back in the cup, I guess.
Catching big pike on smaller tackle while searching for big walleyes is a lot of fun, but every angler knows that the same hooks that guarantee you that hookup can turn on you in less than an instant when even the smallest of the scissor lip brigade decides to get squirrely as you handle them for the release.
These are the dangerous ones. So I've intentionally driven a hook into my hand here so that we can display how you might actually take a hook out. Just grabbing these fish. Northerns are a little slimy. Triple grips are very sharp, and when they go in, they just don't slide out. So I think Jim's actually gonna try putting some braid on it and you just kind of pop it out. So we'll see how that works. I've done it before with pliers too, so we'll get it out. But it is a little tender right now.
I've only seen it fail one time.
So is that going around the hook?
Yeah, we're gonna go around the hook. Let me see what you got here. You got her ice down good?
Yeah, sure, why not?
The ice takes a lot of the pain away.
Uh-huh. Oh, Jesus.
Okay. There we go. I want a little bit of ice.
But as long as we're on the subject of what works,
Oh, yeah!
You didn't even feel that. I've done that 100 times.
besides TV Dr. Carroll's impromptu trusty hook removal kit,
Dr. Jimmy.
what else in a light tackle setup do you need to be prepared for casting for walleye and northern pike?
Let's take a look at the equipment that we're using today for casting for these walleye and pike. We are using a little bit lighter equipment because we really are trying to target walleye. So I might go a little bit heavier if I was just doing pike. What I'm using for a rod is a 7-foot long rod. I like a little bit longer rod so that you can get good distance on your cast. And it's got what's called a slow taper to it. And the reason for that is as you're cranking this back and a fish hits it, you need some shock absorption so that you just don't tear the hooks right out of the fish's mouth. Because the line that we're using is a no stretch line. And the reason I like to use that is, first of all, I can feel if that bait is vibrating right. So if it picks up a little chunk of moss or weed or something, I know right away I'm hung up. The other thing though is that when a fish actually comes after it, you can literally feel them swipe at the bait and miss it. You can feel him pecking at the bait and missing it. And then you can change up your action to try and trigger those fish. Now on the end of this, I'm not tying directly to the crankbait itself. We're actually tying a little bit of a leader on there. You just want to use any kind of real light kind of a wire leader or like a tieable titanium like we're using today. Put on a small clip on the end here, and then of course your crankbait. We found today that pretty much anything with a white belly and then either pink or red on it seems to be really, really good. And that's pretty standard here in Devil's Lake with the freshwater shrimp that they've got. Just take a look at this lure here, all those bite marks in it. That's from about 3 hours of fishing. So super fun catching it on this light equipment out here in Devil's Lake.
Leading information on tackle and techniques to make you a better fisherman. Presented by Mercury.
I'm here at Mercury Marine with Dirk Bjornstad, and props are extremely important to the performance of a boat. Tell us a little bit about these props. You got 3, 4, and 5 blades here.
Absolutely. That's a real common question we get from boaters. What do I need? Do I need a 3-blade, a 4-blade, or 5-blade prop for my boat? So the first one we have here is a Vengeance propeller. It's a 3-blade, very much a standard fitment stainless steel propeller. We make these all the way from 25 horsepower all the way up to 300 horsepower. Got a round ear design, very good on top speed, very good on hole shot as well. Generally a propeller with no bad habits. We're getting a 4-blade today. What I'm showing here is a Bravo 1. Now originally this prop was developed for the big block stern drive applications. Okay. But now that we're seeing outboards or 250, 300 horsepower 4-stroke outboards, what you need is a very aggressive prop with that extra blade area to simply absorb all that horsepower. Now in the 5-blade design, typically that design is favored by some of the rough water boaters, so Lake Erie, the Bay of Green Bay tournament also, a lot of folks will run the high 5. Now typically you might say, okay, 3 blades are for speed, 5 blades are for hole shot. But actually, in a rough water condition, due to how well the 5-blade propeller holds, the 5-blade actually will be the fastest propeller in that particular condition.
Right.
Old adages generally do hold true: 3-blade propellers for top speed, 4 and 5-blade for hole shot, but depends on the kind of conditions and it depends on the kind of boat.
Casting to the edges of heavily wooded shorelines using crankbaits and sometimes swim baits in calmer, clearer water and in windier, cloudier water all have produced bites in both numbers and size for these newly formed lakes off of Devil's Lake in North Dakota for summertime walleyes and northern pike.
Even shallow has got that greenback.
Yeah.
But the shallows of these uncharted waters have more to offer for those who choose to take full advantage of them, as the freshly decomposing vegetation, overtaken by the recent expanse, has these fisheries ecosystems full steam on the ascent when it comes to size.
Big walleye, Keith, big walleye. Oh boy, that's a big
That's out,
walleye.
man. That's out.
I thought it was a pike. It's a big eye. Oh, get that one, Keith. Woo!
All right. What a great little trip this was. I mean, we come up here, you know, I knew we'd catch a lot of fish, but who would think you could catch literally hundreds of fish in a day, catch nice big walleyes like this, really nice big pike, beautiful day out and stuff. All of this in a place that used to be a marsh, for Christ's sake. So, wow, that's just a great fish. I'm sure I'm glad you invited me up here. I love catching all these fish.
I love fishing.
I could stay here a week and just pound
I
these
know, I
things. It's
love
great.
fishing Devil's Lake. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
It's legendary.
Get her back in the water. Holy
Alrighty.
cow, that was great. Yeah. Hold on.
There she goes.
There she goes. What a trip. Man, what a trip.
Legendary.
I am from Devil's Lake.
It hurts so bad.
I tell you what, when you come up here to this Devil's Lake area, and especially if you get on some of these newer lakes, you're going to find just a lot of fish in these. Because once you find activity, you're going to catch a lot of fish. So what we've been doing...
I've never seen such a pike there.
This one is really big. It's got a little hair on the back of his head. It just sticks right on.
Really? Worthless chair on this boat.
The next bite would like to thank Jason Mitchell and the Woodland Resort of Devil's Lake, North Dakota, featuring year-round spectacular fishing, full guide services, a bait and tackle shop, restaurant, and pub. The Woodland Resort is all about you having a good time.